Businesses invited to the ANC's 55th National Conference want the party to take radical measures to deal with the energy crisis. This morning, the ruling party engaged businesses through its Progressive Business Forum program. The ANC's PBF brings together business leaders, government and party officials to discuss a range of issues that affect the economy.
South Africa has been battling load shedding since 2008. This year alone, rolling blackouts have cost the economy an estimated 560 billion rand. Business leaders at the ANC's 55th National Conference say something drastic needs to happen. They're calling for long-term solutions amid the deployment of the army to Eskom's plants.
Energy deficiency has a ripple effect throughout business, whichever sector you belong to. So I suppose that's a burning question that has to be discussed at this conference and for the future. But hopefully, government can find a sustainable solution. We're not looking at short-term solutions. We want a sustainable long-term solutions so that, business does not suffer in the manner in which they're suffering at the moment, because a lot of businesses have suffered huge losses. I mean, we are fortunate that we are still running as an organization.
Businesses were expecting to have Mineral Resources and Energy Minister Mantashe address them, but the breakfast session had to continue in his absence.
Minister Mantashe, I would like to apologize for his absence. We were hoping that we will be able to make it. His office has sent us the communication this morning to extend his apology to the event. Minister Mantashe is both the national chair, outgoing national chair. He was facilitating the discussions from the 16th. So the nomination process of the top 7, not the top 6, went until early hours of the morning. So it is for these reasons that Minister Mantashe is unable to be with us.
This has been described as a missed opportunity by business leaders gathered for the Energy PBF breakfast.
It's unfortunate that the minister is not here. We wanted to engage the minister on energy issues and mineral issues because we need to promote the inter-Africa trade as a country. And when we are going to host events, we need the support of our politicians. But really, on the other side, why should, if there are no, especially in a patriarchal culture, especially African, South African, women suffer more in basic cooking, in preparing for children and this. I was happy when I left my house, there was load shedding. I said, at least let me go to Nazareth, there will be no load shedding. But it can't be. It just can't be. And we're able to, and we have coal.
The Black Business Council says the Eskom board and leadership must come up with progressive strategies that will serve as solutions to the current disruption of energy that have affected businesses and the country's economy.
For the past 8 to 10 months, this board, the Eskom board, whether the new and the old one, they were not addressing the critical or the core business of Eskom in terms of the base load. The base load in the form of nuclear, in terms of coal power station and gas. And that's part of the problem because they spend time dealing with the IPP. The IPP, Samkelo, is the notion that we think load shedding will be addressed by your solar and wind, and that's not the case. I mean, this thing have been proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the IPP, they are weather-driven. They are contingent upon weather. Solar, you need the sun. If it's raining and it's cloudy for a number of days, you're not going to have any energy in any form or shape.
Small businesses say they can't take it anymore as many continue to close shop.
We have the Shabalalas, we have the Moponyas, we have, all our leaders who really strive with township economy even during those difficult years. Now, come to a situation whereby we are now saying township is facing a reality, meaning township economy, we are on our own. We had COVID, which was a very big pain to our business. We had the social unrest, that just added into that wound. Now the floods.
Business leaders gathered for the Energy Progressive Business Forum breakfast agreed that the ANC's national conference must come through with reforms around energy that will place the country's economy on a path of inclusive growth. They say lessons must be learned from policies around energy security that some have failed while others have not been implemented. They want an emergency energy plan that will safeguard the country's economy, the industry and jobs lost daily from the rolling blackouts. Katlego Logodi, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Right now, let's discuss the possible impact of the ANC's 55th conference on business. We're now joined via Zoom by Khanki Matabane, Chief Executive Officer at the Black Business Council. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Now, looking at the 55th National Conference of the ANC, we understand its importance, not only for the party, but for the country as a whole, and its effects will no doubt have implications across various aspects. Talk to us then about the importance of having the ANC realign itself with business.
Good afternoon, Unati and the viewers, and thank you very much for having us. The ANC is a very, very important organization, especially because they are the ruling party. So the ruling party controls basically the legislation that get passed. They control the policies that are adopted in South Africa because they are the majority. So it's important that we must pay attention to what is happening at the ANC because it basically controls what happens. They are the ones who make sure that if they are not necessarily organized, it affects the environment where business operates. So we have high hopes, and we think if the ANC comes united, that will then impact on government, and that will be good for the country. But if it comes divided, that won't be good for the country because whatever happens at the ANC will impact what happens in government. Then it affects what happens in the environment. And then we do have a lot of other things that we think that we hope they should be able to address. Remember, they've been in power for 28 years. There are successes there, things that they could have done better. But at the moment, we're looking at them to say they're on top of the list. When the conference is done, we want them to address the power issue in South Africa. That affects environment of investment. If you are sitting outside South Africa, even if you are in South Africa, you want to invest more. There's no way you're going to invest with the current load shedding where we're almost in the 24-hour session, in a 24-hour day with almost 12 hours of no electricity. But there are other issues. For example, as you may know, the unemployment figures were sitting at 70% youth unemployment. That is unacceptable, it's unsustainable, it's also dangerous for the economy because when you have so many people who are sitting at home, some of them with degrees, they may just get tempted by people who don't want to see the democracy sustained, tempted to do other things that they're not supposed to do because their minds are not occupied by positive things. The economy then is not growing, and then as you may have seen, when the GDP figures were released, I think a week or two ago, the biggest contributor was electricity. It affects small business mainly. It also affects big business, but it affects small business.
Just on that point, you mentioned load shedding, you mentioned electricity and how that affects ordinary South Africans and including small businesses. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana recently admitting that they could have done better as government at Eskom, with President Cyril Ramaphosa also echoing essentially his sentiments, stating that the ANC is also partly to blame for load shedding. Godongwana also saying that Eskom's tariff decision by the energy regulator will determine government's plans on the future of the power utility. How important is it then that Eskom really takes a pivotal role within the agenda of the ANC and include yourselves as business within its decisions that it takes?
Yes, we are happy that the firstly government listened to us when we said they must change the board and bring a board that is experienced with proper skills, with engineering skills, accounting skills, and corporate governance skills. And we suspect the reason why the director left is because they were starting to hold him accountable. He was not used to be held accountable because the previous board was afraid of him. So now that the director is gone and we need a solution for the short term, we need someone who will come and say, bear with us for the next 6 months, but you'll be able to see positive developments after either in the period 6 months or even after 6 months. And then because at the moment there's no plan. You wake up, this is stage 5. After some few minutes, it's stage 1. It goes to stage 6. So Eskom must give us a proper plan to say this is how we want to resolve the current situation. Because the biggest challenge we have now is not like the future, talking about renewables and other things. Is how do we stop the current load shedding? And then we had indicated this to all the role players, including the president of the country, that to resolve the current load shedding, you just need to sort out the current Eskom. And if you can sort out the current Eskom, you'll be able to deal with the a load shedding.
But Mr. Matabane, I know you've obviously wanted a director to leave Eskom, blaming him for most of the troubles that utility is going through. But my question was also, just referencing what the Minister Godongwana said, saying that we had spent a lot of time, looking at Eskom instead of looking at, generational capacity and those issues. How do you then think that, a new leader coming in, or even the board, in fact, will solve that problem?
I agree with him that government could have done better. But for us, I think we just wanted to focus on Eskom because that's the only way you can solve load shedding. You can't solve load shedding by bringing more capacity because that takes like 6 months. No, it takes 18 months, it takes 24 months. And we don't have 24 months in South Africa. We need to resolve load shedding now. And just to give you an example, Eskom has got 45,000 installed capacity. At the moment, we only demand 22,000 megawatts. So there's a difference between the 45 and the 22. That's where Eskom must focus to make sure that the difference that is supposed to be available for South Africans to use is available. And you can only do that by making sure that the current power stations of Eskom are well maintained, they are well looked after, they are able to produce the electricity that is supposed to produce. And once that is done, then in parallel, you can deal with the other issues of making sure that there's enough electricity in the future. But as we speak now in South Africa, theoretically, we've got enough electricity to power South Africa. And that's supposed to be where we're supposed to focus on. But the conference must also focus on other things. For example, the issue of crime. We've got construction mafias who are threatening our members all over the country, including in mining. There are people who are doing illegal mining in Limpopo, for example, and those are threatening our members who are small businesses who are operating there. So that lawlessness must be dealt with by the ruling party. So the ruling party must make sure that is dealt with decisively. There's an issue of corruption. We hope whoever gets elected needs to be able to continue to deal with corruption, because once we deal with corruption, we'll be able to deal with the business confidence. There's no one who's going to bring money in a country where they know it may disappear. So it's important that we continue to deal with that corruption so that we can have a positive investment climate. We can have more investment in South Africa. We can grow the economy, and we'll be able to reduce the high unemployment that we have. And again, it's important that the conference must deal with supporting small businesses as part of them basically saying government has adopted the National Development Plan. The National Development Plan has actually said you need to make sure that you support small businesses. In the jobs that needs to be created by South Africa, 90% of them, which is 90% of 11 million, is supposed to come from small business.
Yes.
And you can't then just sit and wish and hope things will happen. You need to be able to take decisions, take steps that will visibly support small businesses.
Exactly. Mr. Matabane, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Khanki Matabane, Black Business Council Chief Executive Officer there. All right, now let's take you back to Nasrec, where SABC News political editor Mzwandile Mbeja is standing by for us. Mzwandile, thank you so much for your time. Of course, earlier on, we saw that press conference by outgoing ANC spokesperson Bule Mabe being very confident, in fact, saying that, they are hoping that things will speed along as voting commences today, and that the conference is going to end on Tuesday as expected. But if that changes, of course, they will give us an update.